Hi, everyone. We're about to start Sythe's first political debate. I'm joined by Felix, who is representing the Trump point of view. We were expecting some more Trump supporters, but they didn't show. And to support the Clinton point of view, I'm going to be debating for her, and so is Pyramid. And Ethan from Dragon Dice and Player Swap will be our moderator. All right, Ethan, you can take it away.
All right, well, good evening, everybody. The day before the election, and I guess we're gonna start this off quick. So, only 9% of people either chose Clinton or Trump in these primaries, and now the whole country has to deal with the consequences. Are you happy with your party's nominee, or do you wish you had a different choice? And we'll start off with the Clinton supporters.
All right, do you want to take this first? Or you want me to?
You can go for it.
Me personally, I kind of was hoping for Bernie. Like I voted for Bernie in the primaries, and he was my number one. But and back at that point in time, I was not a Clinton supporter, obviously, since I voted for Bernie. But I think that I've reconciled my views from that point, kind of like less idealistic than I was back then, and kind of hope for a pragmatic candidate. So I am actually kind of a lot happier with Hillary at this point than I was earlier.
Yeah, definitely. I was also a Sanders supporter. I even campaigned for him. But at this point in time, I am happy with my party's nominee. However, I do wish we had a different choice, only because 9% of Americans, eligible voters, voted for Clinton or Trump, and that's not even close to being a democracy. If 80% of Americans had voted and Clinton was our nominee, I'd be much more happy. But because so few participated, I feel like this isn't a real choice that we have.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I also think that if you're a person that is unhappy with the current nominee, but yet you didn't vote in the primary, I feel like that's can't have that position while not having put the civic effort into voting for the candidate.
Most definitely. If you didn't participate in the primary, you shouldn't be allowed to complain about the candidates.
All right, thank you guys for your response on that question, and now it's Felix on the clock to respond.
I'm pretty much the same as both of them. My primary candidate did not go through. I wanted either John Kasich or Marco Rubio. At the time, I really didn't want Ted Cruz, especially because he was so radical, way too far right. And I wasn't really too sure about Trump because of his, he doesn't have much experience compared to Rubio. Doesn't have much experience compared to Kasich, who's a governor. So I wanted one of those two at first, but now I've switched on over to Trump just because, in my eyes, he's the lesser of two evils between him and Hillary.
All right, thank you. Now, moving on. I would like to know if you guys are voting for your candidate or more specifically against the other one. And since you kind of ended on that, Felix, I'll just let you kind of carry on with that.
Sure. I'm mainly voting against Hillary just because there's a lot of things with her that, I'm not really too sure about, that I'm not really comfortable with her, being in office, or just her poor judgment that I've seen. Her 30 years, she does have 30 years of experience, but her judgment has not been the best. I'm also very for saving baby lives, and she's very for partial birth and partial abortions. She's also for open borders, and she expanded on that despite them being WikiLeaks. The fact that she expanded on it shows that, that kind of verifies that those WikiLeaks were true. So I think that Trump is the lesser of two evils, despite his arrogance. I think he could work on a lot of things. He has a lot of room for improvement. But I'm still going to go for Trump.
I'm going to respond to a few of those things. So you said that you're for saving babies' lives, but do you not support the right for a woman to decide what to do with her own body?
I very much so support what the woman should do with her own body, but there is a point where, that baby is not part of her body. If a girl is pregnant and the baby is kicking and punching, that is not part of her body. That is absolutely, there's a human life in there, and he has his own soul and he has his own spirit, and I'm very much, very anti-abortion.
So, do you agree with Roe v. Wade, or no?
I'm sorry?
Do you agree with Roe v. Wade?
What is that?
It was the Supreme Court decision to allow abortions as a constitutional right for women.
I agree with some part of it, as if like like if a woman is raped and she doesn't want the baby, then obviously there are some circumstances. But if you make the decision, because how hard is it to get condoms or Plan B in any pharmacy? It's not a difficult thing to do, or give the baby to a fire station, put them in an orphanage. Um, I do agree that it is a woman's right, but only in some circumstances, such as rape, things like that.
All right. And then do you hold these views for religious reasons or just because you support human life?
A little bit of both, but mainly for religion, because I've been raised in a Christian household, and my church sponsors a lot of places that are very anti-abortion. We do anti-abortion campaigns and such. So
I see. So for you, at what point is the cutoff for when a woman should be allowed to have an abortion?
that's it. Just like I said before, if the woman is raped and she
User joined
really
your channel.
like financially she cannot support the baby. Financially, she just doesn't have, she doesn't have the time. She's in college. She was attacked. It's not really her fault. It's more the male's fault. So I think in those cases, abortion is okay. But in most circumstances, it's people being stupid and people not being careful enough with their decisions, and then those regretful decisions lead to murder. So.
All right. Well, everyone supports the lives of babies. It's just that some people consider it to be a life at a different point than others. So of course I'm not for abortion at the last day, but I do believe that it should be allowed outside of cases of rape, especially because in many areas it's hard to get access to good forms of birth control, or they don't have the proper sex education in schools to avoid unwanted pregnancies. So I do think that definitely abortion should be allowed at certain points in the pregnancy because it's the woman's body and she has a right to it.
Yeah, I would agree with that one, just because I mean, obviously people have different definition of what the time of conception counts as life. Like, some people believe it could be all the way up to the birth. Some people believe it's whatever, 3 months. It's having an abortion for women is not a thing that they're looking forward to. It's actually more of a traumatic thing that is like the last resort almost, where if a woman can't financially provide, can't emotionally or mentally, she's not prepared to raise a child for 18 years, I think it's better for her, better for the baby, and better for society for there to at least be the option for abortion.
Okay, so do you guys want to move on to the next question, so we're not just on
Sure,
abortion
sure.
for the entire
that was
time?
a
Of
really
course,
good
sorry.
tangent, and I think what we could take out of this is both sides would prefer to avoid
User joined your
abortions
channel.
in every situation that they could, but both differ on the different situations in which they would allow it to happen. So moving on, how would your candidate be good for this country in terms of the economy, and how would your opponent hurt the economy? And we're going to start off with the Hillary's.
Pyramid, do you want to take this or should I?
I can start off.
Okay.
A lot of her plan is investing in infrastructure, building new bridges, roads, that America obviously needs because a lot of its infrastructure is failing. I mean, she's obviously has stated she's going to continue a lot of Obama's economic policies, which, while they haven't fully recovered the American economy, there has been a slow, gradual increase in total GDP, quality of life, and I think that she's not going to have some miraculous effect on the economy and completely crash. I don't think she's going to help exponentially boost it, but I do think it'll be kind of in the same realm as Obama, where she puts money into infrastructure, she puts money into just building things like that, and it gives jobs to Americans. But I do think that Trump's message is dangerous economically because we don't really know what the economic impact of pulling out of NAFTA, pulling out of NATO, uh, We don't really know what the impact of those could be, and it could be good, it could be bad, and I think there's a lot of uncertainty with Trump, which is what attracts a lot of people to him. But I'll give that to you if you want to add anything to that.
Sure. Also, in terms of her economic policies that I really like, she wants to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, which would give the lower class more money to spend in the economy. So, when the lower class isn't ridden by debt and they're actually able to contribute to the economy, businesses will grow. And that helps everyone, not just the lower class. It helps the upper class that own the businesses. So I feel that's a really great policy that she's in favor for and that Trump is not. Also, I want to add that Trump is dangerous for the economy in other ways. Most importantly, he is completely willing for the U.S. to default on its debt. He did that several times in his career. He's had 6 bankruptcies, and he's stated on the record that he's completely okay with the U.S. doing the same thing. So that might sound great. Oh, the U.S. doesn't have debt. But that's how you end up having China knocking on your door for their money. You can't just default on the U.S. economy. We have to stay true to our word by paying off our debt. And if Trump's not willing to do that, that definitely hurts the credibility of the United States and the overall economy. And the markets show that Hillary is better for the economy because every time Trump goes up in the polls, the market overall goes down because they're reacting to Trump, to the possibility of a Trump presidency happening.
All right, and same question to Felix.
Okay, so I think that Trump's economic policies are actually, they do have its problems. Same with, I'm sure Hillary does have her problems with her economics. But I think Trump's main goal, I believe, is that he wants to improve the GDP growth over a period of 10 years, over a period of 1 decade. Because as we've seen, like over this past decade, like over 10 million people have left the labor force, and I'm sure that that minimum wage should be increased because this would be like a huge boost to people saying, oh, I get paid more, I should go out and get a job soon. That this would add people to the labor force, but there's a huge problem in that 1 in 5 American households like they don't have a single family member who even works. Like that's why we're seeing more homeless people on the streets, more people on the streets in general. So I think that Trump's plan, to boost the GDP growth, for every 1% added to GDP, that's another 1.2 million jobs. So I think that over his period of 10 years, he's going to create those jobs back for the people, and all those 15, 20 million people unemployed, they're going to be back in the labor force, and we're going to be back and have a nice steady U.S. economy.
But how would he increase the GDP throughout that 10-year period?
I believe he has a pro-growth tax plan, which is kind of like a framework for America's I think it's for their energy plan that he wants more people employed in those areas with energy and create jobs there, because we have so many more sources of energy like solar panels, we have wind, we have water. We're going to stick with electricity too, but we have so many more which they could provide more jobs for people to grow in.
All right.
And the latter half of the question would be, how does your opponent possibly hurt the economy?
I think that Clinton does want to stay with NAFTA, if I'm correct on that. I'm not really sure on her views on that. I think NAFTA has been hurting us for a really long time, and that it just allows Mexico and Canada to kind of take advantage of us. And I think that Trump he's done with that bullshit, and I think that he wants NAFTA, that he wants to back out of it. Like Time to Buy said, we don't know the effects of that or what it could have on us. But I think that we need to back out of NAFTA for now because they're just using us. Same thing with OPEC. There's still Saudi Arabia is still using us with the oil weapon and threatening us. And I think that Trump is done with that. And I think that the U.S. should be done with that in general.
Do you think Trump has put thought into the consequences that would be in withdrawing from OPEC or NAFTA, like you said? Because there could be a war over withdrawing from OPEC. Because there's a lot of money involved, and money leads to wars. So how do you think Trump has weighed the pros and cons for doing these actions? We can't just go into things blindly.
That is very true. Like I said in the very beginning, I think that Trump does need a lot of room for improvement, and that is one of them. He does have to think out a lot more of these things before he just goes into them, just like you said. But I think that his overall view is that the U.S. is being taken advantage of, and that we're stronger than these other countries. So, why are we the ones who are being taken advantage of? I think that's Trump's whole point.
Sorry, I just want to throw in some sideline fact check there. The U.S. is not a member of OPEC. That's oil patrolling. Organization of the Patrolling of Exporting Countries, and the U.S. is not a part of that.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Also, Eric joined us. He's more undecided, but he's leaning towards Trump. Anyway, Felix, you mentioned that you're in support of Trump's tax policy. Trump's tax policy is all about trickle-down economics, as Hillary really cringily said. It's trumped up trickle-down. Just the worst. Anyway, but it is trickle-down economics all the same. And we've seen in the past that just doesn't work. It allows the wealthy to become very, very rich, and it makes the middle class shrink, and it causes the lower class to become even poorer. So, how do you feel that Trump's tax policy will be any better than previous Republican trickle-down economic policies?
So are you saying that this entire time the trickle-down economics has not been beneficial to the U.S. at all?
I'm saying that, yeah, it's helped the rich get richer, but it hasn't helped the common man, yeah.
Are you in favor more for socialism then?
I'm not in favor of socialism, but I am in favor of taxes on the rich. And this is coming from someone that is part of the 1%. Because we can't expect the rich just not to pay taxes.
Yeah, I think that I can see where you're saying that the rich should be paying more because they're richer, but in my opinion, that just doesn't make sense. So the harder you work and the more money that you make, the more that you have to give away. In my eyes, like, I'm also part of the 1%. My dad's a pretty successful businessman here in California, but I still don't think that, like, just because you work hard and just because you make more money, you should give more of it away.
So the thing is, you're only taxed at the higher percentage, like 40%, on things over $250,000. Like, I might not have the exact numbers correct on this because I'm just guessing right now.
Yeah, I think it's 250.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is that. Yeah.
So you still make more money than those below you. You're only taxed higher on specific portions of your wealth. And you have to remember that you made that money in the United States of America because of the opportunities that America allows you to have. Like, if you were a really great enterprising business person in Zimbabwe, you might not be able to make that kind of money that you make in America. So that's part of the reason why you're paying the higher tax. Because America is part of the reason why you were able to become so wealthy. Also, this might sound strange, but I think it's in the best interest of that 1% to want to pay higher taxes. Because there has to be a social safety net for the lower class. Because if there's not, there's a very high possibility that things like what happened in the French Revolution will happen. There will be revolts over what's happening. You need to ensure, not the French Revolution, I meant to say Russian Revolution, but it doesn't matter. Basically, by having a social safety net, you ensure that the lower class is happy. That's an agreed point of view, but also that from a moral point of view, it's good to help your fellow man. But that's just how I see it. Pyramid, do you have anything to add?
I mean, in the same vein, if the wealthy are paying higher taxes, it would make sense that by paying that, they're also incurring less costs in their businesses day to day. Like, if a person owns a business, they have a bunch of employees who are lower class. If they're getting health care from the government, if they're getting food subsidies, if they're getting some sort of assistance through the business owner's extra taxes, that would it would make sense that it would be somewhat beneficial for them to be paying those higher taxes because it would detract from their operating costs. The government would be providing more of the services that they currently provide.
See, in my eyes, going back to what Time to Buy said about it's good to help your fellow man. In a sense, that really looks really well on paper. That the more money you make, the more you should give away. Sure, like that looks really good. But in the end, then where's the motivation to get rich? Where's the motivation to stick with your job? Because all people are going to think is, hey, I'm getting richer, but the richer I get, the more I'm gonna have to give away. So why would I keep getting richer? You know, why would I keep working hard at this if I'm just gonna have to end up giving it more away?
Because
And
you
that's
still keep that higher percentage. You still
Actually,
keep.
could I throw something in here?
Sure.
Because there is something that is sort of unique to what Hillary Clinton has proposed in terms of tax rate. She proposes a 65% estate tax for the wealthiest Americans. So that means that when you die, 65% of your assets would go to the state. And
Correct.
so when you say that, yes, okay, so let's say the wealthy are taxed at 40% of their income, they still keep 60%. That's pretty good if they're rich, you know, it's more than they, quote, need, but that would imply that there's a standard there. But the 65 or of the, let's say 60% that's left over that wasn't taxed on income, then you have 65% of that being taxed on death. So you're paying an effective tax rate of over 80% on the total amount that you earn.
So here's the thing about that, Eric. That's on death, as you said. The
Correct.
dead people are not going to use the money. Who is going to get that money upon their death? Their children, most likely, sometimes
the
charities.
family's inheritance, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, those people that are getting the money never earned it. So they're just getting... So instead of getting the money tax-free, which would be very strange, they're paying tax on the money when they earned it for the first time, which is when they get it from their dead parents or whoever bequeathed them some money. So it's being taxed for the first time. The dead people didn't pay taxes twice. No, they pay taxes once, and then their inheritors, the people who inherit the money, rather, are paying taxes on it once because they're getting this large sum of money. And keep in mind, I think it's like $5 million come in currently tax-free. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and if I could add something